Hello, today we want to talk about how CPAs can guide their clients to financial freedom in retirement. While doing so, also double your per client revenue without having to work more or spend more money by hiring more staff. Let's just jump right in and explain this. How can we do this? Well, we were former financial advisors, so we know exactly how traditional retirement planning works, Wall Street works, financial advisors work. And your clients are being taken advantage of by this business model. What we've decided to do is create a common sense approach to retirement planning that's always in the client's best interest, which isn't the case currently. And we're also willing to share revenue to help get this word out because we think how important this is for folks to understand what's really going on behind the scenes. So as I mentioned, I was a former financial advisor for over 20 years. And I got into the business because I wanted to help clients achieve their retirement goals and live a better life. And what I quickly realized is what we were doing wasn't necessarily that we weren't helping, but we were doing it in a way that was clearly in our best interest and not in the best interest of the client. So I founded Wealth Minus Wall Street to really create the system that I think what traditional financial advisors and retirement planning should be, which is helping people achieve their retirement dreams and not overcharging them along the way. So we've created a common sense approach to retirement planning that fixes these problems, and that's what we're going to go over with you today. So here's who we're looking for, the CPA entrepreneur. So we're looking for folks that are looking to make more money, work less hours, become a trusted advisor that literally will change lives. And we'll explain how powerful the benefit is of working with us, because it's wild how expensive it is working with a traditional financial advisor. Willing to think out of the box, challenge the status quo. We get all the time that, well, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. And you can, but what happens is everybody's been convinced that working with the traditional financial advisor and following the typical retirement planning path is the only way to go. And again, we will go over today why that's simply not the case. And the reason why I think CPAs are such a great fit is because you're numbers folks, right? You analyze data, you analyze numbers, and the numbers don't lie for what we talk about. So we have the facts and the data on our side, and traditional Wall Street financial advisors do not. As I just mentioned. So when we go through and do our audit and explain, hey, here's what your fee structure look like, the numbers are the numbers. Financial advisors in Wall Street, there's a reason why they hide their fees. I ask prospective clients all the time, I ask CPAs all the time, not one person has ever truly knew what they were paying for their investments. And as we'll go over today, paying for investments is one of the biggest expenses in your clients' lives. So how in the world can they not know what they're paying? If you don't know what you're paying, you can't evaluate if those fees are worth it. Again, this is something that people don't think about because they're just in that status quo and thinking, well, this is what you do, right? You invest your money, you hire a financial advisor, and what else can you do? So here are the big items that I start with when I educate people. So really everything about retirement planning, it's wrong. It's biased. There's a reason everything flows the way it does, and we'll go over that with you today. This is what we're trying to get across to folks. We'll explain to you that retirement planning is an income problem that Wall Street and financial advisors try to solve with asset growth. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is advisors make more money on assets than they do income. So income generation is a thing of the past. Never used to be that way, but it is now. It's all about asset growth and then taking distributions from their accounts. Clients are being overcharged with little to no value. Again, very easy for us to show them what they're paying. The reason we say overcharge is they're paying two fees. They're paying advisors for investment management, but the advisors aren't managing their money. They're outsourcing that investment management. So they're paying two fees. So right off the bat, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them. Clients are preached diversification. They're not diversified. They're diversified in what Wall Street sells. We'll show you what we mean by that. The investment strategy is based on scale, not client objectives. Essentially, these financial advisors are trying to run a scalable business. So they can't be bogged down by building customized investment strategies, and they can't be bogged down by actually managing money. So it's, again, not in the client's best interest. And we'll go through based on all the inputs to I say retirement plan because that's what Wall Street and advisors like to call it. It's not a plan at all, it's a projection. Well, there's a slide where we show pretty much every input into a retirement plan is variable. There's really no way for the advisor to confidently say, hey, you'll reach this goal if you do this. So it's really just a projection in our opinion. Not really. So here's what we say when we try to create a visual for the client is it's a retirement hourglass. And this is the problem. The top of that hourglass, as you see that sand going through, this is what Wall Street financial advisors want clients to do. Sit there for the next 20, 30, 40 years in retirement and watch this hourglass lose sand and constantly worry about, am I going to run out of my money? Is my account being drained too quickly? And our problem is we want to create a solution where those assets don't have to flow to generate that income, but the income is already generated. So the client is less reliant on how the assets work. So we mentioned before, the focus on asset growth instead of income generation is very interesting. Wall Street financial advisors, they make a fortune charging, they call it an AUM fee. So obviously they're going to focus on what's most profitable to them. And that's asset growth instead of income generation. And you might be saying, yeah, but you generate the income from the withdrawals of the assets, but it's completely different, right? As you know, as you get the volatile markets, if you need to take out a certain percentage and your account drops in half, it gets cut in half. Well, now that asset's in jeopardy of running out of money. So it's just not a sound strategy. Nobody really takes the time to really understand this and look at a potential better solution for the client. So the AUM fee is wild, right? Let's just go through really what it is. You pay when you lose money. So if you lose 25%, you still pay the advisor. You pay when you're underperformed your goals. So if you need to make 8% a year, you still pay the advisor. You pay more when you add more of your own money. So if you're adding money year by year, your fees go up, but the advisor's doing no more work. And listen, this is why this business model is beautiful. The markets go up about 75% of the time. Just as the markets are going up, the fees are going up. Again, the client is paying way too much than they need to because they're attaching this tax, if you will, to their assets, which they absolutely do not need to be paying anymore. Fees dictate success. This is from Vanguard. Morningstar's done studies just to highlight it. We find cost to be clearly the most significant indicator of future alpha, with lower costs leading to higher returns on average. Morningstar does the same thing. Again, common sense, right? The more you pay, it's really hard for any money manager to consistently keep the market over the long term. So what can you control? Well, you can control your fees. You can't control market performance. So that's why we focus on what the client can control, which is fees, and getting those fees down as low as possible. Here's how I want you to think about 1 or 2%, right? Seems like a small number, throwaway. It could be the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is just an example of somebody with $50,000 and adding 10,000 a year. So just assume maybe they're in the accumulation stage of their life. And you see we have 8%, 7%, 6%. And what does that look like in terms of how that grows? And you can see at the end of 30 years, the lowest fee is going to be 1.6 million. The higher fee, just over $1 million. And in the middle of the road, the 7% is 1.3. So that would equate to like a 2% fee, a 1% fee, just buying what's called a passive index strategy, where it's almost no fee. Actually, there are funds where you can get zero internal expenses. So these numbers are very significant and can equate to hundreds of thousands of dollars for folks in lost retirement savings. So this is just quickly, I bring this up to CPAs because we run into this a lot. The common misconception with a lot of advisors, CPAs, you name it, is you never give up on free money. And this is where fees are the conversation. If you don't know the fees, you can't recommend what amount of money anybody should be contributing to a retirement plan. Because if the fees are high, you're just locking your money up for 30, 40 years in an investment that's going to underperform. So this is just an example I gave of somebody making $60,000 a year, contributing 10%. They get the match. So the IRA is growing at 6,000 per year, and the 401k is 7,800 from 3% match. And basically what you say, because of the fees, if you look after 30 years, and this is only 10 years of contributions, by the way, you have 270 plus thousand more dollars in the IRA than the 401k, and that's quote unquote giving up free money. The fees are the only thing that matters when you're making a decision about contributions. Roth IRA, 401k, same thing. A lot of CPAs, you want the tax deduction. We should look at taxes as a whole, taxes today in retirement, but also, again, the fees. So this is just a similar example. Same scenario, $60,000 contributing 10%, $6,000 going into the 401k, and then you lose the tax deduction, and the Roth's are only putting in, let's say, $5,100. And what you see is the Roth still does better in time because of the fee. So even by contributing less money, you still have more money at the end of the day, simply because the lower fee year over year. So let's talk a little about now diversification. Warren Buffett's a pretty smart guy. I think we'd all agree. So he has a quote that says, "Why diversification is only required when investors do not understand what they're doing." We wholeheartedly agree with that. But the business model is to be diversified because, again, that's how the advisors scale. This is an analysis from Williams Towers Watson. It talks about basically how are the wealthy and institutions allocated, what percentage of their assets are in what's called alternatives. So that might be private real estate. For the wealthy, could private equity, hedge funds, VC projects, those types of things. And what happens is they always have a third or half of their money outside of the markets that you and I mostly invest in, where the individual investor only has about 5%, right? So right off the bat, the individual investor almost has all their money tied into Wall Street assets when they're saving for retirement. This is another factor. We talk about diversification and status quo, conventionalism. Then diversification is a good thing. Advice is restricted by the government, right? So even the well-intentioned financial advisor really has to talk about asset allocation and diversification. And it's not always in the client's best interest, especially if they're trying to build wealth. So this just is from the DOL that basically says fiduciaries must act prudently and must diversify the planned investments in order to minimize the risk of large losses, which we'll talk about again. It's such an outdated strategy. Diversification doesn't work the way it used to, and we'll have a couple of slides that show that. So this was last year. This was a target date 2025 retirement fund. Lost 25% last year. So you did everything you were supposed to do. You were diversified. You didn't have your quote unquote all your eggs in one basket. You still lost a quarter of your money. Right around the great financial crisis, same thing. Diversified portfolio, fund to funds, did everything you were supposed to do, still lost over half of your money. So the whole notion that diversification protects against large losses, it just isn't the case anymore. And this is just a point about how diversification can hinder upside, right? So if you have some people that really want to build wealth, sometimes there's really good fund options in these 401ks. Sometimes they have access to what's called a brokerage window, where they can get the best money managers in the world. And if you look at, this is the Fidelity Growth Fund, that 10,000 grew to 54 versus 39 in the index. So significant outperformance. So as we said, the big key here, nobody can control what the markets do, but clients aren't getting all the information that we think they should have so they can make better financial decisions. So you should be thinking, does diversification really help your clients? We would say diversification based on Wall Street's approach, not necessarily. It does not. This is the big thing that hopefully as CPAs, you'll get this. It's hard for clients to grasp because they're too close to it because it's more personal to them. This was put out from Vanguard, and this is what we're taught. And we were taught this as financial advisors. Our goal is not to beat the market. We're not in the business of beating the market. We're in the business of market-like returns. The reason you're in the business of market-like returns, clients will not fire their advisor for market-like returns. Wall Street knows this. So it's that herd mentality. If you're sitting in a party and everybody's saying, yeah, I lost 30% of my money, you feel like, me too. It was just the way the market is, right? Couldn't do anything about it. So this just shows, literally, this is training for advisors. And Vanguard basically says, the further you deviate from the index, the higher the probability the client will start to ask questions and ultimately fire you, right? This is trained all the major brokerage houses. We're all trained this way. there's really little reason to try to beat the market. And this just shows in the report for advisors in a fee-based practice, this is pretty much everybody right now. Substantial deviations from a core approach to portfolio construction can have major implications and result in asymmetric payoff. Because investors commonly report what they hold the majority of their investable assets with the primary advisor, the advisor has less to gain from outperformance than lose if the portfolio underperforms instead. Although the advisor might gain slightly more assets from success, he or she might lose some or even all of the client's assets in the event of failure. So when considering deviations from the market, make sure your clients and practice are prepared for all the possible implications. This basically just says there is no reason that you should try to reach for excess return because it doesn't make good business sense. Clearly not in the client's best interest. And they have no idea that this is what's going on behind the scenes. So here's the retirement planning portion. Is it a projection or a plan? Let's talk about what has certainty and uncertainty when we go through retirement plans the traditional way with financial advisors and their clients. Well, retirement age, we can have some certainty, right? We can put a goal and say, hey, I want to retire at 65, 62, whatever. No idea what the rate of return will be because that's consistent on the markets, and nobody can control the markets. Nobody knows when they're going to die. So that really has an impact on longevity risk, which is a huge problem, right? Living too long to have your assets run out. So that's uncertain. Nobody knows what the tax rates are going to be. So we can't really plan for taxes. And as you guys know, being CPAs, one of the things we see is people not truly understanding that tax deferred is not tax free. So you got $1 million in a 401k that rolls to an IRA. That's not $1 million, it's $1 million. So taxes are a big thing we talk about, not only today, but also. Nobody knows what healthcare costs are going to be. Nobody knows if they're going to need a major healthcare, long-term care, nursing home, something like that. So that's variable. It's completely uncertain. Social Security is uncertain. We don't know how long it's going to be and in what capacity. And the amount saved, we don't know because we don't know the rate of return and some of the other factors. So we can't even confidently say, hey, if you keep doing this, this is what you'll have, at the end of 20, 30 years. And we don't know what inflation is, right? So everything we just talked about, it's all uncertain, very few certainties that come along with it. Here's the other big thing that nobody wants to talk about. You really have to question if investing even makes sense for the average person. So this is also an issue with the average investor, not necessarily Wall Street and the advisor, but as you probably see dealing with your clients, they do the wrong thing at the wrong time, right? This is a study from Dalbar. They do third-party research on investor returns. They've been doing it for decades. They always find the same thing. The average investor significantly underperforms whatever index we're talking about. This one, if you just look at the far right, that's a 30-year return. So if you were in an average equity mutual fund index, you returned 2.88%. The index was 5.6. So 2.88 is basically not even keeping pace with inflation. So Richard Bernstein said this. He said the quiet part out loud in an interview. And he said, what's shocking is that simply by investing, most people actually made themselves poorer. They're just shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. Richard Bernstein was a former chief investment officer at Merrill Lynch, real sharp guy. This is the actual truth. I mean, this is what we talk about as being a former financial advisor. You have to question, does it even make sense for the average person to invest the way that Wall Street's telling them? So let me just pivot very quickly, and I apologize for going fast, but I'm just trying to get you enough information as quickly as possible to see if you'd like to talk more about this. So we do what's called a retirement audit, and our retirement audit covers 4 key areas. We look at their fees, we discuss the concept of diversification or why most likely they're not diversified. We help them understand how their investment strategy is built, right, which is market-like returns, which most people do not understand. What does that mean? And then we analyze their plan, in quotes, and explain to them that it's really a projection, not a plan. And then we have solutions for all 4 of these, obviously. So we can help reduce fees. We can help show them how to be truly diversified. We can help educate them on different investment strategies, pros and cons in each, help point them in the right direction with partners we work with that actually manage the money, and then actually put a plan in place where there is some certainty to what they're doing and how they prepare for it. So here's the benefits of working with us and helping get the word out on the pitfalls and problems with traditional retirement planning and working with financial advisors in their current form. For you, it's 2 or 3 times client revenue. This is a lot for W-2 clients, right? So W-2 clients, maybe you're doing for a couple $100, $500 a return. We can show you how to increase that pretty significantly. We think this really will help increase referrals as well, because I think once people understand really what's going on, it's really hard not to see that what we're offering them is a better solution. As we mentioned at the top, no need to work more or hire more staff. You can just increase revenue from the existing book of business that you have if you want to. And it's a way for you to create financial freedom, make more money, work less, and also follow the advice that we give as well. For the clients, we can show them how they can increase retirement savings by not even saving any more money, but just by reducing or eliminating the AUM fee that they're paying. We can reduce the risk in their savings. As we mentioned, clients currently aren't really diversified. So this is a really good way to become diversified and reduce risk in their portfolio. Create more certainty in retirement, increase retirement income. We didn't spend a lot of time in this video, but if you'd like to have a call, we explain that really the focus, our focus, and we try to educate people. Income is where they need to be focused, especially as they're getting closer to retirement. Empower clients to take control. They've completely outsourced their retirement success because most financial advisors do the same thing. They're kind of stuck in this bubble where they're not getting the type of advice that we can provide. Help them create financial freedom today and in retirement. So here's the win-win financial benefit. So as we had mentioned, for clients, it could be 6 or 7 retirement savings. It could be less than about savings, but more generating guaranteed income. Because again, what we do is customizable. So it's whatever the client wants. So at a minimum, we're going to show them how to significantly increase the income if that's what they want, or if they want to grow their assets. Just by removing those fees, we're going to help them do that. The audit cost and implementation, I would say this is an average. It's about $750, about $3,000, depending on how big the portfolio is for the client and how many investments that we have to analyze. But the point is, at that cost, we're saving them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the value that they're getting is staggering. And then we typically share about 1/3 of that with the CPA. So that would be the revenue that you would receive, profit sharing with us, helping us get the word out that there's a better way that clients can prepare for retirement. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about our program, we can go in much more detail, show you numbers, walk you through what we do a little more comprehensively. Feel free to reach out to me. This is my contact information, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks a lot and have a great day.